Welcome to lecture 2, online lecture 2 on prerequisite course. Myself is Dr. P.G. Kadam, working in mechanical department as a professor, JSPM, JSUV, head of subconnect. In this lecture, we are going to cover the atomic model. In previous lecture, we have covered the atomic structure, what is the atom, and the isotopes, isobars, Avogadro's number, and in detail what is the atom, element, or molecule already was covered. In this lecture, we are going to cover the atomic models. After watching this lecture, learner will be able to give the what are the different atomic models. He can able to differentiate the atomic models, and learner, the student will be able to understand the concept of atomic models and quantum numbers. See, the development of this atomic model was started and developed by the 5 great well-known scientists, Nobel awarded scientists. These are the 5 scientists here with their atomic structure shown here. See this atomic structure, they were defined by the scientists. Okay, so we'll see one by one how the development of the atomic structure along with the atomic configuration with models they develop. Okay, and one decade was over from 1800 to 19 till date. The development of the atomic model was there. Okay, see one by one. This is the first atomic model suggested by in 1808 by the well-known scientist John Dalton. He suggested the atom is nothing but the solid sphere. He proposed his theory: atoms are very small, indivisible. We cannot divide this atom, can't be divided or created or destroyed an atom. And every element, he suggested that an element of any substance are identical. He suggested the different elements having different properties. He was given this theory, and after that, atoms of different elements combine to form compounds. What are the compounds? Already H2O example was covered in last lecture. In that H2 and O, different two molecules are there, they form the compounds. So according to his theory, these are the proposed some theory by the John Dalton. This is the sphere he was suggested, shown in, and this theory was evolved in 1800, not yet. Next, to clear this Dalton's atomic theory, we'll see one clip of this movie. So I will show you.
The laws of chemical combinations created ripples in the stagnant pool of chemistry. They enabled scientists to carry out various experiments that helped in forming strong foundations in chemistry. However, the laws still needed experimental evidences and proofs. Only then would they be accepted. It was around the first decade of the 19th century that a chemist and a physicist from England named John Dalton was successful in answering many questions. He proposed a theory which was then known as the Dalton's atomic theory. With this theory, many concepts regarding matter, composition of matter, atoms, and even combinations of atoms resulting in compounds were better understood. Okay, let's first take a very quick look at the 6 major postulates of his theory. First, he said that all matter is made up of very tiny particles called atoms. Secondly, he suggested that atoms are indivisible particles which cannot be created or destroyed in a chemical reaction. Third postulate was, atoms of a given element are identical in mass and chemical properties. Similarly, fourth postulate was that atoms of different elements have different masses and chemical properties. Fifth postulate stated that atoms combine in a ratio of small whole numbers to form compounds. And lastly, the relative number and kinds of atoms are constant in a given compound. I know I just rattled off the postulates. Don't worry, let us now understand each postulate one by taking the same example of elements A and B giving rise to compound C. The first point stated that all matter is made up of very tiny particles called atoms. It means that when we go on dividing matter into smaller and smaller sections, what we get at the end is atoms. So can we say that elements A and B are made up of atoms? Yes, in fact, compound C is also made up of atoms that have combined together. So the first postulate was very easy to understand. The second postulate was that atoms are indivisible particles which cannot be created or destroyed in a chemical reaction. Now, what do we mean by this? Yes, it means that atoms are like the fundamental units. Dividing them further is not possible. Also, in a chemical reaction, atoms may combine together to form new units. However, no new atoms can be created and existing ones cannot be destroyed. So in this case, the atoms of element A and B are just combining to form compound C. So can we say that no new atoms are formed in this case? Yes, and similarly, no atom is destroyed. Let's move on to the third one now. The third postulate states that atoms of a given element are identical in mass and chemical properties. If we zoom into the element A, we find all the atoms that make up element A are just the same. And in what sense are these same? The atoms have identical mass as well as chemical properties. In simple words, the third postulate states that all atoms of a given element are identical. And does this explain the fourth postulate too? Yes. The fourth postulate states that atoms of different elements have different masses and chemical properties. So are we able to notice that atoms in element A are different from those in element B? Absolutely. And in what sense are they different? Atoms in element A and B have different masses and even different chemical properties. In simple words, it states that atoms of different elements are different. The fifth postulate states that atoms combine in a ratio of small whole numbers to form compounds. Now, what do we mean by this? In this chemical reaction, we find elements A and B reacting and giving us the compound C. If we observe well, a unit of compound C has 2 atoms of element A and 1 atom of element B, right? So aren't these whole numbers? Yes, this means that in any compound, the elements are always present in a ratio which comprises of whole numbers. You will not find half or 3/4 atom combining with the other. In case of water, we always have 2 hydrogen atoms and 1 oxygen atom combining to form 1 unit. In 1 unit of carbon dioxide, we have 1 carbon and 2 oxygen atoms. The same holds true for all compounds. The number of atoms of a particular element in a compound will always be a whole number. Now for the last one. The sixth postulate states that the relative number and kinds of atoms are constant in a given compound. The same explanation that compound C has 2 atoms of element A and 1 of element B makes us understand this. Yes, if we scan compound C, we will always find 2 atoms of element A and 1 atom of element B in a single unit. And this is applicable for all compounds. We've already looked at 2 examples, water and carbon dioxide. In case of 1 unit of water, we always have 2 hydrogen atoms and 1 oxygen atom. And in a single unit of carbon dioxide, we have 1 carbon and 2 oxygen atoms. Carbon monoxide has 1 atom of each, that is carbon and oxygen. While 1 unit of ammonia always has 1 nitrogen atom bound to 3 hydrogen atoms. So the number of atoms will always be constant in a unit of a particular compound. In a nutshell, all these postulates help chemists to further understand behaviors of elements and the compounds formed from them. But for understanding these elements and compounds, knowing the concept of atoms is necessary. Let's get to know what exactly these atoms are, how they exist, their mass, and many such interesting concepts in the upcoming video.
So, after postulates of Dalton atomic theory, we'll see the next atomic model suggested by this J.J. Thomson. He was suggested this atomic model in the year 1904, and the model is represented as known as a plum pudding model. So this model include this. He suggested this electron, like this same figure is shown here, and he found that an atom consists of positive charge and negative charge. It is shown here the positive charge, and these are the negative charge. The negative charge are embedded here inside this atom, and it represented this model as a plum pudding. Means one chocolate cake is there, a small cake. Inside that chocolates are embedded. Similar shape is called as plum pudding model. Okay. So these are the positive negative charges he was suggested, and atom is electrically neutral. That was said by the said the positive equal to negative charges will be there. So the suggestion given by the this J. Thomson atomic model, negatively charged electrons are fixed in the positive sphere. The sphere is all sphere is positive, and surrounding this the electrons are there. A suggestion given by the John Thomson. Okay, the electron negative charge value is given by the coulombs. In coulomb unit is coulomb, 1.602 into 10 raised to minus 19, and mass of this atom you suggested 9.108 into 10 raised to minus 31 kg. So it is given in kg. So this was the J.J. Thomson given model, the plum pudding model. So we'll see one small movie on this. It will clear more idea.
Have you heard of the man who split the atom? Well, he did not break the atom literally, but proved that an atom is not the smallest particle of matter. I'm talking about Sir J.J. Thomson. During Thomson's time, it was known that atoms are neutral. Thomson added to this knowledge by proving that all atoms contain negatively charged particles called corpuscles, a term that was later changed to electrons. He also inferred from his studies that the size of an electron is negligible when compared to an atom. Moreover, Thomson found that properties of all electrons are the same, irrespective of the material they belong to. With all this information at hand, the challenge for Thomson was to visualize the structure of the atom. You already know that an atom is so small that even the most powerful tool cannot give us a peek inside it. So, what do you think Thomson did? Well, he knew that electrons are negatively charged and are present within an atom. But hey, an atom is neutral. So, how can the negative charges be balanced? There has to be an equal number of positive charges to balance these negative charges. So, Thomson reasoned that an atom contains an equal number of positive and negative charges, because of which the atom is neutral. Thomson was aware about positively charged rays because Goldstein had proved their existence back in 1886. But it was still not known what these rays were made of. So Thomson simply imagined the positive charges in an atom as a cloud. Since the electrons are very negligible in size, Thomson reasoned that most of the mass of the atom is contributed by the positive charges only. As the positive charges are spread uniformly as a cloud, Thomson concluded that most of the mass of the atom is uniformly distributed throughout the atom. Summarizing his observations, Thomson stated that the atom consists of negatively charged electrons embedded in a positively charged soup or cloud in which electrons are suspended. This model of the atom is called Thomson's atomic model. Thomson carried out a detailed analysis to come up with this arrangement, and it was accepted by a majority of the scientific community at that time. Many scientists called it the plum pudding model because it reminded them of plum puddings which were popular in England. The plums represent electrons and the pudding represents the positive charges. This model of the atom, although extremely simple, is one of the major breakthroughs in scientific history. Prior to this, no concrete representation of an atom even existed. So let's applaud Thomson for this delicious pudding model. This brings us to the postulates of Thomson's atomic model. Firstly, an atom consists of a positively charged cloud with electrons embedded in it. Secondly, the negative and positive charges are equal in magnitude. So, the atom as a whole is electrically neutral. Lastly, the mass of an atom is distributed uniformly throughout it. Great! But do you think this model is perfect in itself? Not really. Like all good things, this model also had certain flaws. For instance, Thomson could not properly define what the positively charged part of the atom really contained. He also did not clearly explain whether the electrons in the positively charged sphere are fixed or move about randomly. I'm sure such doubts must be troubling you too. But there was someone who had the answers to them. Do you want to know who? We'll learn more about him shortly. But before that, here's a quick recap. Thomson discovered negatively charged particles and called them corpuscles. These were later renamed electrons. Thomson proposed the plum pudding model, also called Thomson's atomic model. Postulates of Thomson's atomic model are: an atom consists of a positively charged sphere with electrons embedded in it. The negative and positive charges are equal in magnitude and the atom as a whole is electrically neutral. The mass of an atom is distributed uniformly throughout it. The drawbacks of this model are: it could not properly define what the positively charged part of the atom really contained. It did not clearly explain whether the electrons in the positively charged sphere are fixed or they are moving about randomly. That's all about Thomson. We'll meet again to see how another great scientist took us a step further in understanding the atom.
So moving toward the new atomic model that Thomson was given, this few postulates also were studied. The new model is the third scientist, 1911, Ernest Rutherford, who has properly defined atom. He theorized that atoms are mainly empty space. Positive charge is concentrated at the center of atom. It is called nucleus. So see, this is the positive charge. and it's the nucleus. And surrounding this atom, the center of atom, the nucleus is there and electrons are around the nucleus. See, this is blue color. These are the electrons movable. It is represented by E raised to minus bar. The positively charged core is nucleus. So